I had just inherited an old farmhouse from my grandparents, who had passed away a few months ago. As a child, I used to visit the farmhouse every summer, and I have so many fond memories of playing in the wide, open fields and splashing in the nearby creek. But now, as an adult, stepping foot onto the property gave me an unsettling feeling. The farmhouse looked worn, down, and abandoned. Weeds had grown tall, and the paint was peeling off the walls. Despite feeling a sense of unease, I decided to spend a few nights in the old house, trying to reconnect with my childhood memories. The first few nights were peaceful, but that all changed on the third night. I was awoken by a loud banging at my door. I bolted upright in bed, heart pounding in my chest. I tried to assure myself that it must have been an animal or the wind, but then I heard a voice whisper my name. It sounded like my grandmother's voice. Feeling a chill run down my spine, I slowly got out of bed and made my way to the door. As I reached for the doorknob, the door flew open, revealing a figure standing in the doorway. It was there. I saw my grandfather, but not the one I remember. His face was twisted in anger, and his eyes gleamed with a sinister reddish glow. I stumbled backwards, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, but before I could even utter a sound, the figure vanished into thin air. I stood frozen in fear, unable to comprehend what was happening. It wasn't until the next day, when I did some research, that I learned the truth about the farmhouse. It was said that a young couple had once lived in the farm, and the husband had tragically passed away in a farming accident. The wife, overcome by grief, had committed suicide in the very bedroom I was staying in. It was believed that her haunting spirit still roamed the farmhouse, and now I was experiencing it firsthand. That was the last night I spent in the farmhouse. I quickly packed my bags and sold the property, not wanting to have any ties to that terrifying place. But even now, as I sit in my new home, I can't help but wonder if the ghost of my grandparents is still lingering, trying to reach out to me from beyond the grave.
A group of us decided to spend the night in the haunted woods. We had heard all the stories about the ghosts and spirits that lurked there, but we were young and foolish. We thought it would be an adventure, something to laugh about the next day. But as we walked deeper into the woods, with only the light from our flashlights to guide us, a heavy feeling of dread descended upon us. The air suddenly became thick and cold, sending shivers down our spines. We were all on edge, constantly looking over our shoulders, convinced that we were being watched. And then we heard it. A faint whisper that seemed to be coming from all around us. We all froze, our hearts pounding in our chests. We tried to convince ourselves that it was just the wind, but it felt too deliberate, too haunting to be natural. We continued on, trying to shrug off the uneasy feeling that had settled upon us. As we sat around our campfire, roasting marshmallows and telling scary stories, we heard a blood-curdling scream that made us all jump. We quickly searched the surrounding area, but found nothing. We all laughed nervously, trying to convince ourselves that it was just an animal. But then we saw it. A pale figure standing in front of us, its eyes glowing with an unworldly light. We all screamed and ran into different directions, our hearts racing in fear. I could hear my friends screaming in the distance, but I was too terrified to stop and look back. I just ran, my flashlight shaking in my hand until I finally reached the edge of the woods. I never looked back, too afraid of what I might see. To this day, I cannot explain what happened in those woods, but I know one thing for sure. We should never have gone there. The ghosts of the haunted woods were real, and they weren't going to let us leave without a fright.